Thank you, Terry. I'm going to segue from Terry's comments into what happens next. So after the task force issued its recommendations, the PUC has taken our piece, which I would summarize as being access to broadband for the state, and we have gone forward with the California Advanced Service Fund program. It was started December of '07. Yes, '07. And we have $100 million from telephone surcharges in a 2-year grant program, and we have been giving 40% grants, matching grants, to applicants who want to serve unserved and underserved areas in California with broadband. So far, we've granted roughly 26 applications. I don't remember the stats from yesterday, Michael, but do you remember how many households total we've nailed? What, Geraldine? Unserved or underserved? $40,000 households? 14. I think that was 14. 14,000. And 4,000 square miles. Okay, and we've done that pretty quickly, really granting in the last 6 months. And so that's the first thing we've been doing. The second thing is the CETF, who Susan represents today, has been working really hard on both rural demand aggregation and broadband adoption programs, and she'll speak more about that later. And so they've been very busy running around doing all types of big projects, and then they've also been funding as a grantor money to small community-based organizations who have technology focuses to expand their programs, particularly in the broadband adoption arena, with special emphasis on low-income, rural and remote, and persons with disabilities in the big picture. So that effort's been going on. And then the last piece of it, well, actually there's 2 more pieces of it, have to do with health. At the same time, California applied for a California Telehealth Network application grant, which we got from the FCC under the Rural Pilot Program. We got $22.1 million from the FCC, and it was matched by the CETF, who provided $3.6 million. And so we now have in the telehealth network, which is being managed by the UC, they have 860 sites certified all over California to be connected by high-speed broadband. There is an RFP out right now to pick the carrier, and we would expect that that effort will push broadband further out into a lot of rural areas where it was not as good before. And then the last piece is that there's an HIT effort going on, which has to do with health information passing electronically and electronic records, which is going on led by HHS, Kim Belshé, Secretary Belshé. And they are also applying, I understand, isn't that correct, for some ARA money having to do with the HIE initiatives. So that is also going on. So in a nutshell, that is the realm of activity that's been occurring in California for about 3.5 years. It's very intense. It is due to the leadership of the governor and the various agencies that I've just mentioned, but we're very intent on it. So I wanted to give you that high-level picture. Okay, the first thing I wanted to ask, we're now going to try to go through the NOFA. How many people have read the NOFA word for word? Put your hands up. Okay, that's not bad. All right. I wanted to first represent that I am not an expert on the NOFAs. I read them about when you guys did, the ones that raised their hands. It's 121 pages. I read it while I was on the beach, so you can just picture that and know how much sunk in. And having said that, it's not my document. It's a document of the National Telecom Information Agency and the Rural Utilities Service. They have provided contacts and an email that you can ask questions to. So I just wanted to qualify everything that I am not an expert. I didn't write this document, but I thought it would be helpful if we could try to do an overview to set up the fact that on July 24th, write that down, July 24th, there is going to be a workshop by NTIA and RUS in LA, and that information is in this set. So, okay, Shelley, you're going to drive for me, right? Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today. Go ahead, Shelley. So, obviously, this program was set up by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Oh, let's get a show of hands. One more thing. How many people here represent potential applicants for the Rural Utility Service Broadband Initiatives Program, the BIP? Okay, there's quite a few of you. Okay, and then how many think you would be applying under the BTOP? Raise your hands. Okay, okay, that's good. Thank you, that helps me. I also would like to add that I think some practitioners here who have read the NOFA perhaps 2 or 3 times may know more than me, so you should feel free during Q&A to help answer questions. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. I am not an expert. We're going to do our best. Okay, so it was passed in the ARA, we call it, the Recovery Act sometimes, and $7 billion about for broadband, including both infrastructure and adoption. Let's remember the statutory purpose of ARA because it comes up a lot when you start looking through the application. It was about jobs and economic stimulus. It was about promoting infrastructure. And so every single application has got to talk about jobs created. Write that in really big letters with an asterisk by it, because that is one of the huge emphasis of this bill, and that explains the rush. Everybody's freaking out because the deadlines are so quick, right? No one's sleeping. And the reason for it is they're trying to rush the money out to maintain jobs and create new jobs. So that's the context. They're trying to get the first tranche of money out end of this year, and the rest of the money must be out by end of September of next year. So 2 agencies are doling out the broadband money. National Telecom and Information Administration, they're part of the Department of Commerce. As background, they're a very small agency. They just lived barely through the DTV transition, and then this got dumped on them at the beginning of the year, so they're pretty frantic over there. They've been hiring like mad, but they're really very small. They don't usually do big projects like this in DTV. And then the second group that's doing the rural money is the Rural Utility Service. They're a part of Department of Agriculture, and they have a history of putting out some grant money, mostly for telephony in the rural areas. There are not a lot of companies in California that have taken advantage of that because of the definitions, and so there's some of you, but there's not a lot. Okay, so on July 1st, just in time for the 4th of July weekend, the NOFA came out, and what was interesting is they put out a NOFA jointly. Both the RUS and the BTOP got together, the RUS and the NTIA got together and put out one notice, and I thought that was interesting. One, it shows a high level of coordination between the 2 agencies, and 2, I think there was a pragmatic reason for it. 1, there is more money in the RUS fund than the NTIA fund for broadband, and what they say in the NOFA is you have to apply to RUS if any of your sites are in rural, and then for everything else you go over to NTIA because of the fact that there's more money in the rural part. So you can see on that chart there, I stole the bottom of the chart from CETS. I want to thank Susan because I stole it from you. You'll see the RUS in the first column, and then you'll see that they got a total of $2.4 billion. And then on the right side, you see NTIA. They got $1.6 billion. And I wanted to point out the National Reserve line. It's the 4th line down. They said it was essentially it's money that they could use to augment the grants in this Notice of Funding Availability, NOFA, or they could keep it to remain unused for future NOFAs. There's supposed to be 2 more rounds. So I look at it as a discretionary stack of money. Now, the reason they may hold it back is that there are some states that are unready to put in applications by August 14th. So I think there was some pressure that they better hold some money back so that those states will have a go at it in round 2 or round 3. Most of us, though, believe there'll be a big rush for the money on this first round. And so to be prudent, I strongly recommend that you attempt to apply in this first round by August 14th. I strongly suggest that because we don't know for sure